welcome back to Haywire Homestead, everybody. If you're new here, we're a small 5-acre farm in Ohio, and we have a high tunnel. If anybody asks, it is 96 by 30. That is the size. Today's topic is pretty much, what have we learned so far, with growing in this high tunnel. So I want to kind of go over maybe the top 5 things that I think we've learned from using it this season. I'm sure we're going to learn even more next year. But let's start off with number 1, watering. Watering is very important to your plants. Overwatering or underwatering can really cause problems. 9 times out of 10, it feels like the reason why you're having an issue with a plant is either you overwatered it, underwatered it. If you underwater it, it's not getting the water and it can't access a lot of the nutrients and minerals that it needs. If you overwater it, it kind of dilutes those things down, plus can saturate and cause the roots to rot and those kind of things. It can also increase your risk of fungus and molds. So a couple things that we did, let me show you here. First thing is we installed these drip lines along the ground. We got these from Haas Tools. So each row has one, and they have these, you can see here from where it watered this morning. There's a tiny little slit, and I believe they're about every 12 inches. I'm sure you could add more if you had things that were planted close together. So basically we're planting right at the base of the plants. Let's see, the hose comes over here and goes across to each row. There is a piece on the outside that you can hook up to add liquid fertilizer into it. Another thing that we learned in regards to the watering was these little shutoff valves. Now we've only got them on the peppers right now, but next year we're going to put them on all the rows. Basically, that allows us to turn off the water on a row that maybe doesn't need it quite as much. The peppers are on the very outside rows, and the one thing that we noticed is they didn't need as much water because when it did rain, water from, when the sides were open would drip in and kind of leach down over to them, and then they were getting overwatered. The other thing that we have, which isn't out here, it's in the barn connected to the hose, is a timer. We have it set up to water every so often. During a lot of the heat of the summer, we were watering about a half an hour every morning. We're now watering every 2 to 3 days because it's cooler and the plants, just don't need it. So that is the first thing. Watering is really important, and making sure that you monitor that watering and give the plant what it needs. The second thing is, well, actually this kind of goes with watering too, is the ground fabric. This is your garden weed fabric. I think my husband got this from Johnny's. He might have ordered this from Johnny's Seeds. I'd have to ask him to be sure. I know you can get them from Growers Supply in Tennessee. It comes in different lengths and different widths, but basically you put this down, and it does a couple things. It is obviously a weed barrier. It also, because it's dark, it helps to heat up the soil, especially when you're starting out in the early season. When you're first starting out in those spring days where you got the really cool nights and then you get warmer days. The other thing it does is it helps conserve the moisture because it helps hold that moisture a little bit. It is breathable. It will let the water soak in, but it does help conserve our moisture a little bit as well and kind of slow that evaporation rate down. But the weed fabric has really helped us out in regards to labor in here. You're not really pulling as many weeds. We do have to pull weeds at the base of the plants. And to use this, you can check out, there's some good videos that Living Traditions has on, making the holes to put your plants in. Basically, we made a template on a couple 2x4s and I think a 2x6, drilled round holes into those and laid them down. And then we used a torch to burn the holes so it seals the edges so they don't fray. And then you can put your plants in. You can do different sizes. For smaller things such as green beans that we were just doing direct sow, we used, I believe it was a 1 or 2 inch hole, and spaced those out accordingly. In here, we did a 6 inch hole for the tomatoes. So the ground cover fabric would probably be number 2 because it really has helped us. And when I say it cut down labor, it cut down so much on the weeds. But, and I'm so thankful for that, because the next thing is trellising and pruning. We learned a lot about trellising and pruning. We are really liking the lower and lean method, which we do have a brief video on that. You can check that out on our playlist, but lowering and leaning and pruning is very labor intensive, and we knew that it was going to have some involved, but I mean, it is really labor intensive. You've got to be out here every day or every other day to keep up with it. I'm actually behind because I was at the markets all weekend. So, and today I'm not going to be home very much. So I might try to come out here and get started on it. But you can see where, like this one, it needs to be trellised. It needs to be clipped onto my string here. And then see, this is a sucker that needs to be removed. We have suckers coming up on the bottom. So we learned that it was really labor intensive. It's a labor of love. And you have to be prepared for that. Number 3 would be temperature control. So right now we do not have doors on each end. We actually just ordered, and the hardware is ready for us to get. Let me go pick up today to start building the doors. We're going to be doing them on a track similar to the frame on our track door. It's just going to be one big door that slides at each end. Currently we cannot get what's called it's like a skylight, almost like a PVC, clear PVC product that comes in sheets. A lot of times you might see those on barns that help let the light in on the sides. My parents have them on the sides to help more light come into their barn. We cannot get it. It's been on back order for 6 months, and we have not been able to find. Sorry, this leaf looks funny, and I thought maybe it was a army worm. All right, so we can't get that. So we're just going to be using the plastic. We have more of this plastic, same as we have here. We're going to build a frame, attach it to the frame, so that door can be opened completely whenever it's hot on both ends to allow cross breeze. You've got your sides that can be rolled up. You can roll them as high as they can go. If it's a cooler day, you don't necessarily have to roll them up. But the other thing that we had this summer, which we didn't have it for very long because we had it for several months and then it died. And then we couldn't get another one because that seems to be the hobby, but I'll get sidetracked here. We had a large barrel fan, and what we did is we had it facing outward, and that helped to pull the heat out of here when we were having 95, 98, with heat index and really hot, because this just holds so much heat. So temperature control in here is very important. Another thing that we did not get, and by the time we were ready and able to afford to purchase them, we couldn't get them, was shade cloths. So a shade cloth would go up here across your roof. It would cover, the whole top here. And Grower Supply has them. There's several other companies. They come in different strengths. You can get them, I believe it's anything from 30 to 60% shade. We need probably around 40. If we were down south where the sun is a lot stronger, we would probably want to get something a little bit darker. But we're going to definitely have those next year because we had some issues with some heat stress on our plants this year. So the shade cloth, having the fan, and being able to open everything up to allow the air to move is really important to help keep your plants in your high tunnel from getting too hot in the summer. Another thing that we just purchased that will be installed when we go do the doors, we're going to do one on this end and we'll probably do one on the other end, is instead of having, we may still wind up with a drum fan on the floor, but we're going to be putting in this heavy duty exhaust fan. So this will actually go up above the door. Be framed in there, so that way it can help as the heat rises, it can be pulled out of the high tunnel to help us control that. So that's 1, 2, 3. See, how many have I done? Oh my gosh. See, we did watering, we did the ground cover, we did trellising, and we did temperature control. All right, the last one that I'm going to talk about is plant spacing. So we planted our tomatoes how they are now, and we've actually found we probably could have planted them close together. So learning your spacing, we actually could have put a lot more plants in here than we did. We spaced them as you would normally space them, but with growing them up, we actually could get them a lot closer, which would get us more plants in a smaller space and be able to put even more plants in here. So we could maybe do a few more varieties, a few more different species of plants. I think I want to try putting a few zucchini in here next year and see how they do, just to try them out. I mean, our main ones are still going to be the tomatoes, the peppers, and the cucumbers. But you can space them typically, especially when you're trellising the way we are, you can space them closer. I probably, in a span of where I've got 3 tomato plants, I could probably have put 4. So, you know, check out spacing, look up information on spacing in a high tunnel when you're trellising the way we are. I'll try to do a video later on, you know, what we found will work best and what other people have done as well. But that's it. I hope everyone's having a great day. I wanted to show you guys the watering system. So we have it hooked up to a hydrant. The hose actually goes out, and we've got a door in the back side of our barn that the hose goes out to. Eventually, we probably will submerge a line underground and put a spigot out there so we don't have to use that. But this is the timer. I know we got this on, well, I think my husband picked it up at Ace Hardware. There you go. The spigot just stays on. And we have a diverter, so that way we can still use the hydrant when this is on. But we just leave it on, and then it tells you next start time is at 5 a.m. And it shows you what time it is now, but you can set it up in time and set up for how long you want to water. I hope that helped somebody out there. This was definitely a challenge and a you know, a fly by the seat of our pants kind of thing. I mean, and we did research, we looked up things, we checked things out, but as we went along, we would find, you know, encounter problems or issues and go, okay, and we would go back and either search YouTube, searching online, contacting your local extension office can also be a good resource. Yeah, that's it. So I hope you guys go out there and grow something.